On today's show, Jalen Brunson drops 47 points as the Knicks get a nice win over the Miami Heat. Plus, the Sacramento Kings and Chicago Bulls both win thrillers on Sunday. We'll talk about all that and every NBA game from Sunday on this edition of Locked On NBA Game Night.
When that final buzzer rings, you know it's time for Locked On NBA Game Night. All the post-game reactions to every game across the league, every single night, with insights only the hosts at Locked On can provide. It's the true NBA fans' one stop for all the action. Every game, every night. It's Locked On NBA Game Night. Tipping off now.
What's up, everybody? My name is Danny Cunningham from Locked On Cavs. He's Swipa from Locked On Nuggets. And we want to say thank you to you for making this edition of Locked On NBA Game Night your first listen. You can find us wherever you get your podcasts, Apple, Spotify, or anywhere else. And of course, this show is a proud part of the Locked On Podcast Network, now America's #1 sports podcast network. In today's episode, brought to you by FanDuel. If you want to be right in the middle of the action of the season, visit FanDuel.com. Place your NFL live bets all season long. And we begin today with the New York Knicks taking down the Miami Heat. Jalen Brunson had a fantastic game as the Knicks win this one 132 to 125. Before we dive into this, let's hear from Locked On Heat's Wes Goldberg with more.
Miami Heat go into New York and battle the Knicks pretty closely for 3.5 quarters, but then Jalen Brunson and the Knicks pull away in the end. And it is becoming clear now that the Heat just don't have the thing that the Knicks have, or some of the other top teams in the Eastern Conference. I'm Wes Goldberg over at Locked On Heat. The Heat just did not have a closer, and the Knicks did. Jalen Brunson goes off for almost 50 points in this game, hit some clutch free throws in the final 2 minutes of this one. What could have been a possession game in the last couple minutes had Jaime Jaquez Jr. made his free throws, ended up becoming a 10-point lead with just under 2 minutes left for the Knicks after Jalen Brunson made 3 free throws off of a Norman Powell flagrant one. The Knicks kept possession back and end up turning this thing into a 10-point deficit with just under 2 minutes to go. And at that point, the game was over. But the Heat played him close for most of this game. The Heat coming out of a pretty rough skid here. Played Boston close on Friday. Played the Knicks close tonight on Sunday. But in Boston and in New York, it just was clear. The Celtics had Jaylen Brown. The Knicks had Jalen Brunson. The Heat don't have that closer. If only there was like a 6'10" Greek player playing somewhere else in the Eastern Conference who might not be totally settled in his current situation that maybe the Heat could trade for this season, but who knows? Who knows what's going to happen?
I don't think that's going to happen this season, and we will get to Miami in a second, but Swipe, I do think the story of this game is Jalen Brunson obviously having 47 points. Like, he was really, really masterful on a day where New York needed it too, because I do think one of the beautiful things about New York so far this year is how balanced they've been, how their depth has really shined in this game. Like Karl Anthony Towns, maybe the worst game that he's had since New York traded for him last year. He finished with only 2 points in this one. Like, the Knicks really needed Jalen Brunson to go out and score 47 points, and that guy went and did it, man.
One of the things I do most enjoy about watching this Knicks team is that when they have their guys on the floor, they move the ball so well off of Jalen Brunson. Very similar to SGA or any guard-heavy team, Donovan Mitchell with the Cleveland Cavaliers. One of the things you want to be able to do as a team is when you have a player that has a lot of gravity on the perimeter, how can we move our offense around the defense overplaying their hands? So if you're basically putting 2 on ball, even if it's not like a direct 2, so in a lot of NBA teams, what they'll do is they'll do a load up, kind of a wall, simulated wall behind the player, and they'll have the guy guarding Jalen Brunson or Donovan Mitchell or SGA, and then they'll have 2 people flanking off of that. That way they can defend drives and all those other things. But what happens is that, Danny, when you do that, you then put yourself in a situation where you can allow for back screens, flare screens, off ball, and then you can over rotate, and then now you got 3-point shooters either in the corner, or if you get a drive, you got an opposite side corner 3-pointer or wing 3-point shooter. And what happened today is, and why I like the Knicks, is that when they did that today versus the Knicks and Jalen Brunson, well, then they said, cool, we have shooters on the court with him. And when you did that and you're over helping on Brunson and Donovan Mitchell or Davion Mitchell 2 minutes and 21 seconds, he's kind of playing back and forth, like, between him and OG. And then it's like, all right, cool. You're 3 steps behind OG now. So he passes the ball to OG Anunoby, but now Jaime Jaquez Jr. has to make up the difference between OG on a closeout or a drive. So then he has to play off of Mikal Bridges because of how good OG's become as a shooter. But when you play off Mikal Bridges, he's such a good shooter then. All he needs is a sliver of space, and now he's making a three to extend the lead from 4 to 7 with 2 minutes left. So it's just little nuances, Danny. And so one of the reasons why I think SGA is in conversation for best player in the world and why players like Jalen Brunson have so much they bring to a roster is because, Danny, what happens is when you have a perimeter player that takes up that kind of space, it literally becomes an anchor for the defense, and they overreact to everything you're doing, especially when you're hot. So Jalen Brunson was great today, but subsequently, because Jalen Brunson was so good, you saw Mikal Bridges and OG Anunoby eating off of a lot of those overplays by the Miami Heat defense, and thus you're able to score 132 points at home versus a good Miami Heat team.
Yeah, I mean, Miami is a team that has a top 6, top 7. I forget exactly where they rank in terms of defensive rating in the NBA right now, but they are one of the best defensive teams in basketball. To see them get torn up the way they did. And I think you make a really good point about the guard stylistically that's like Jalen Brunson being able to move the basketball too. And in looking at the box score, and like, yes, it's easy to just say, well, yeah, the Knicks shot 53% from beyond the arc. Of course they won. And some of that is true. Like if you shoot that well on that type of volume from 3, you're going to win far more frequently than you're going to lose. But look at the non-Jalen Brunson members of the Knicks in this game. They were 14 of 25 from beyond the arc. Like that to me says, yes, those guys hit shots, but it also, I think, says a lot to your point about the way that Jalen Brunson's able to create those shots. Now, even on really good shots, is Bridges going to go 6 of 7 all the time? Probably not. Like that's a little bit of an outlier. He's a really good shooter, but that percentage is a lot. But still, like I think this really speaks to, I think, how the Knicks have grown as a team, because I'm not sure that last year they were capable of doing this against some of the better defenses in basketball.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see what happens. Obviously, when playoff time comes around, that Patriots series obviously kind of comes to the top of my brain on what they need to do. But I'll also tell you this too, brother. If Josh Hart continues to play like this, then they're going to be really hard to beat, because last year, one of the reasons why teams were able to kind of work defensively versus the Knicks is that they had Karl Anthony Towns, who was playing at all NBA level, was an all NBA player. And then you had Josh Hart, you had Mikal Bridges, you had OG Anunoby. But Josh not being able to deliver in a lot of those situations as a shooter, that makes it so much different in how you're guarding them. And right now, again, as a starter this year, 12 games, Josh Hart averaging 15 points, 9 rebounds, and 6 assists. And he's still shooting 42% from 3, including 3 of 5 from 3 tonight, including, Danny, he had a play where the ball ricocheted and then he got the ball almost at half court and nailed a 3-pointer. And so you can just see, like, when you got role players that are making back-breaking plays like that, it just changes the ceiling of your roster and of your team. So overall, man, this is an elite basketball team. I think this is the best team in the Eastern Conference. I think this is the Eastern Conference best bet to win a title this season as well. But, Danny, I also want to shout out Khalil Ware.
He was awesome in this game. He was the best player for Miami in this game. Like, is that going too far to say? And not saying he's their best player, but he was really good. And the one thing that Wes brought up that I wanted to say, like, are they trading for Giannis? Are you buying that? Because I'm not.
I don't know what assets they would have to give him up, because at that point it's like Andrew Wiggins, and obviously they could trade their best guard if they wanted to, which is obviously Tyler Hero. But so Tyler Hero plus a bunch of stuff and picks, because at this point I don't want to give up Khalil Ware, because I would like a world where he's playing next to Khalil Ware or Bam Adebayo. So I want to keep those two people on my team. But then now it's like, okay, what is Milwaukee getting back? So obviously, if you could make a trade for Giannis, do it. But we haven't talked about Giannis in a while, Danny. But Giannis is kind of in the media now saying that, like, he doesn't really have a lot of say in whether or not he gets traded and this and that. And I'm just kind of like, false. Yeah, I think he just wants to be the good guy and not have that.
That's 100% what happens. I think that we have gotten to the point where he probably doesn't want to be in Milwaukee anymore. But I think he has seen a lot of the way that some former players that have left the situations that they've spent a lot of their career in have been maybe vilified is the
Mhm.
word, when they have left, when they have demanded out. And I think that Giannis does genuinely care about Milwaukee. I think he cares about that organization, but I also think he sees how things are going and like that there's not necessarily a championship ceiling in sight for the Bucks. And I think that he wants out, but he doesn't want to be the bad guy. And I think that's why we kind of are at the point where we're at right now with him.
I agree. Yeah, man. But if they could do it, great. But you know what? I think they should also just be focusing on, like, you have a real blue chip in Khalil Ware. Let's see where that goes.
Yeah, I'm with you. And I think that other teams are going to be able to have a little bit more to offer for Giannis Antetokounmpo than the Miami Heat will. Well, there were a couple of thrillers on Sunday. The Chicago Bulls get their third win in a row. They're playing good basketball right now. And the Sacramento Kings with the upset of the night as they beat the Houston Rockets. We'll talk about both those games next, right here on Locked On NBA Game Night. But first, today's show is brought to you by Robinhood. Nobody knows your money goals better than you. Robinhood puts you in control of your money with tools that work as hard as you do, locking in on every opening, beating your PR, beating it again. Channel that drive into your money. Robinhood puts you in control of your money, trade stocks and ETFs, options, futures, and crypto all on one platform. You can now build and execute your own trades from a desktop with Robinhood Legends advanced tools, or take advantage of the new Robinhood Strategies with a tailored portfolio managed by a team of experts. You expect more from yourself, expect more from your money. Get started today at Robinhood.com/yourmoney. Again, that's Robinhood.com, Robinhood.com/yourmoney, YOUR money, your money, your move. Thank you again for making today's edition of Locked On NBA Game Night your first watch or listen on YouTube. Also, a reminder to check out the Locked On NBA Everydayer Club. A link is in the show description. You get this show ad-free, plus exclusive access to a subscribers-only Discord channel. And now we head on out to Sacramento, where the Kings got a overtime victory over the Houston Rockets by a score of 125-124. This, to me, it was such an electric game. Like, I understand that the Kings are not a very good team right now, but this was such a fun watch. Seeing Russell Westbrook be the guy that forces overtime with a corner three late in the fourth quarter, Dennis Schroeder hitting the game winning three. DeMar DeRozan had 27. Keegan Murray hit some big shots. He had 26. A really nice win for the Kings, and maybe a loss that raises a few questions about the Houston Rockets too.
Well, I did say this online, but, the Rockets are a bad shooting night, which is 40% from the field and 30% from three from Denver, away from being 0-4 this week. The Pelicans lost. Obviously, they're up 25. They lost to Denver, obviously, in overtime just the other day, and then obviously this one versus the Kings. Yeah, they definitely have some issues in the clutch, but it's not just, a lot of Rockets fans, I think, are so focused on point guard, but the same thing I've always said about what makes you a team. Their offensive identity, it has to be more than just simple isolate KD, isolate Şengün, and you just kind of hope for the best from there. And shout out to the Kings, man, because Russell Westbrook made the three to tie the game to help send them into overtime. And then he really played, I think, a really good stretch of basketball for a lot of the game. Now, he had a foul on a Jabari Smith three after a bad pull-up three that happened. So, again, it was like the Russell Westbrook experience all in the 90 seconds, run. DeMar DeRozan, he's not a guy that I want on my team, Danny, just because, I just don't think there's some things he does as a ball stopper. Like, he's not a great defender, but he's not a good enough scorer either for you to, turn your whole offense towards DeMar DeRozan. But he's so good. He had 27 points today, and, he was lighting up Kevin Durant and them. He had 9 assists today as well. He was making good passes, good decisions. And mind you, Keegan Murray had 26 points. And I think, and Danny, let me ask you this question. So at the end of the game, DeMar DeRozan, he drives to the basket. The Rockets are up 2 with 2 seconds left or whatever, after he throws the pass. So there's 7 seconds left. He drives to the basket. And Torrey Eason is in the corner on Dennis Schroeder. But Torrey leaves Dennis Schroeder, I guess, to go help in case DeMar DeRozan misses the layup. So for you, Danny, if you're Torrey Eason and you're up 2 with 6 seconds left, and all they do is need a layup to tie, but a 3 loses the game, how would you have played that in between if you're Torrey? Would you try to come and help, or would you just stay?
I think it kind of depends on who the shooter is too. Like, I do think that in your mind, you have to know basically, because on scouting reports, like guys will be hard closeouts or soft closeouts basically. And if you're defending a hard closeout guy, like that's somebody that you're just not going to leave really in any situation, no matter it. And you don't want to lose the game by doing it. Now, I don't know exactly how Dennis Schroeder is on the Rockets scouting report in terms of what type of closeout they want to have on him. So I do think it would probably depend on that. I am of the mind that you don't want to lose the game in that situation, especially when you're the better team. Now, if these situations were reversed and you are the Sacramento Kings playing at home and you can maybe prevent a game from going to overtime, you do it. But if you're the Houston Rockets and you say, well, we're the better team. If this game goes 5 more minutes, we should be able to find a way to win those 5 minutes because we have Kevin Durant. They don't. We have Alperen Şengün. They don't. Like, this is a Kings team that right now doesn't even have Domantas Sabonis on it and is just, quite frankly, not very good. So I would lean in terms of I'm going to prevent them from winning the game right now. And if the game gets extended, it gets extended. And I mean, Sacramento won this game in large part because Russell Westbrook hit a corner 3-pointer. And I know that Russ has had good moments shooting from the corners in his career, but he's somebody that if you are Houston, you're going to live with him making that shot, right? Like that just kind of is what it is. That's part of the loss. But overall, like I can't necessarily say, no, you should do one thing or the other there. I would lean on if the game goes overtime, you should find a way to win it because you're the better team.
Yeah. Look, losing to the Kings, the Nuggets lost to the Kings, and I think the Kings had lost 6 in a row, at that point. Nuggets just came off their first Houston win, I believe, the first time they beat them. So you can lose to anybody in the NBA. That's just the nature of how three-point shooting works. That's the nature of how the talent level in the NBA is insane. I mean, you got a bad team, 7-22, and on that roster, they got DeMar DeRozan, Zach LaVine, and Domantas Sabonis. Those are like $40+ million a year level players. So the thing is, if you don't show up every night and you don't play defense, you don't do the small things, you don't do the hard things, you don't do the hustle thing, Danny, you will lose in this league. And off the bench, Dennis Schroeder had 24. But by the way, continuing his strong stretch of play, Reed Shepherd only 4 of 13 from the field, but he was 4 of 9 from 3, 4 assists. He was a plus 17 off of the bench, man. Reed Shepherd, he continues to take these crazy leaps forward. Ime Udoka only had an 8-man rotation today, which is interesting, given the fact that they just added Torrey Eason back. Steven Adams was completely out of the rotation. Obviously, Jayshawn Tate and Aaron Holiday did not play as well. So it maybe would help if they would have extended their bench a little bit. That way they can get some more run. But I mean, shout out to the Kings, man. I don't know what they're doing with Keon Ellis. He only played 9 minutes today. He was a minus 12 in his minutes, which was a team worst. But I just think he's a much better player than he's given the opportunity to show right now. The Kings kind of have too many players that are like mid or developing or older that want to play because of contracts or whatever else. And I just think they're kind of losing out on some of the players like Keon.
I do think it's worth noting for Houston that it was the second night of a back-to-back. It was ready for this, their third back-to-back of the season. Imagine that. Imagine having to play 3 back-to-backs in a season. Like, it is insane to me that they've only had 3 back-to-backs so far. I think 7 or 8. And
already?
One Monday and Tuesday. Yeah, they've had 2 5 and 7s already. I am exhausted.
Wow.
I've covered 2 5 and 7s. I think they've had 7 back-to-backs so far. And the Rockets this was their third. Like, it's absurd. I'm not even mad about it that the Cavs, I have had so many games that have been so close together. I feel like I can't catch my breath. And the Rockets, all they do is have 3 off days between every single game because they never play back-to-backs. But the other game that was incredibly exciting on Sunday was between Chicago and Atlanta. Chicago beat the Hawks 152-150. This was not an overtime game. They only played 48 minutes. They did not get the extra 5 to ramp up these point totals. The Bulls were able to withstand a potential buzzer beater at the end from the Hawks. Ultimately, 3 straight wins for Chicago. Jalen Johnson had a good game. He had 36 points for the Hawks. Trae Young also had 35. And I believe it was his first home game back since he returned from his injuries. As for the Bulls, Modest Buzelis had 28 points. And Chicago wins their third in a row. They're playing good basketball right now, man.
Yeah, they're playing basketball again. They're, I guess, tricking the audience. But, shout out to their – I say this in jest, but I'm sure you can understand what I'm saying when I say this. I had a Somo off the bench, 13 points, +1. He might not be their best player from a traditional standpoint. Like, Kobe White, I think, is their best player. Josh Giddey's obviously really good, 19, 12 assists, and 9 rebounds today. But Ayo is kind of like their tone setter because he just does everything super well. And I really like the fact that Kobe obviously is, he's back, he's healthy, he's playing well, 31 minutes today for him. And then Mats at 28. The Bulls have some talent, but they just don't have maybe the defensive personnel to be serious every night. But the fact that this score, Danny, you got 152 points from the Bulls and then 150 points from the Hawks. No defense was played. 302 points, y'all. It's just utterly ridiculous. That's insane. And Jalen Johnson, by the way, man, 36 minutes. So he has 36 points, 11 rebounds, and 9 assists, and just 2 turnovers as well. Jalen Johnson, it feels like he's taken he was already good, and he's already been kind of one of my guys this year. But it feels like Jalen Johnson has taken a legitimate step here in the last few games. And if I'm looking at his last 10 games for Jalen Johnson, he's sitting at 28 points, 12 rebounds, and 10 assists a game over the last 10 games of the season.
This is going to sound probably not the way I intend for it to sound, but I think having some time for him personally without Trae Young on the floor probably did him some good in terms of his development. It doesn't mean that those two can't work together. It doesn't mean that their ceiling isn't higher with Trae than without Trae, because I do think their ceiling is higher with Trae. But I think that Trae missing 6 weeks probably helped Jalen become a better basketball player. Is that a fair thought to have?
Well, I think he's becoming his own man. And last year, he really took a step in that. But I think now he's like, I can actually lead a team on my own. And I think that's the experience that he's gotten. What does it mean to be a number one option?
Yeah, I think that's a fair way to put it. And I think that'll be better for him and better for the Hawks in the long run as well. And the final games we got to get to tonight, the Timberwolves avoid what would have been a bad loss plus everything else on this edition of Locked On NBA Game Night. But first, today's show brought to you by FanDuel. NFL Sundays move fast. One big play, suddenly everything feels different. And that's what makes live betting with FanDuel so exciting. You're not just watching the game, you're reacting to it in real time. With FanDuel, you can place bets as the action unfolds. Every drive, every momentum swing, every highlight reel-worthy moment. Live betting the best when the game starts to shift. Maybe a receiver gets hot, a defense tightens up, or the momentum flips after a huge turnover. FanDuel lets you jump into the moment because you can bet live spreads and money lines that adjust instantly. You can bet player props as guys heat up, right? Maybe you catch a feeling that a running back is going to start to get hot. Those holes are getting just a little bit bigger. He's starting to have a little bit more burst, or that wide receiver starting to become the quarterback's favorite target. FanDuel has it all. In Monday Night Football is coming up soon. San Francisco in Indianapolis. The 49ers, 5.5-point road favorites over a Colts team that I believe is once again starting Phillip Rivers. If you want to bet against the 44-year-old grandpa quarterback, FanDuel is the place to do it. So what you need to do, head on over to FanDuel.com. That is FanDuel.com, so that you can be right in the action all season long, and you can place your NFL live bets right there. FanDuel, the game moves fast, and so can you. Thank you again for making today's edition of Locked On NBA Game Night your first watch. You can find us on YouTube. If you are watching right now, do us a favor, hit that thumbs up button for us, click subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss the latest Locked On NBA content. And the Minnesota Timberwolves got a 103-100 victory over the Milwaukee Bucks, a game that the Bucks really controlled for the first half. And then Minnesota in the third quarter outscored Milwaukee 27-15. That's really where this game flipped. It was tied heading into the fourth. The Wolves were able to make the plays down the stretch to get it done, even with what I would call an off night from Anthony Edwards. He had 24 points, was just 2 of 11 from beyond the arc. It needed 24 shots to get to the 24 points. Rudy Gobert had 11 points, 18 rebounds. Dante DiVincenzo had 18. Not an impressive win for the Wolves, but they all count the same in the standings at the end of the day.
Just win, baby. That's all that matters. Just get a win.
That's literally all you have to do. All you have to do. For Milwaukee, who of course is without Giannis Antetokounmpo, Kevin Porter Jr. led the way for the Bucks. He had 24 points, 10 rebounds, and 9 assists. Bobby Portis in the starting lineup, he had 16 points, 11 rebounds, and Kyle Kuzma also had a double-double. He had 12 points, 10 boards. Are you giving any hope to this Bucks team, being able to make the play-in?
I hope
or are they
not.
just done?
I hope not. I just don't think their roster's good. I said this going into the year, and when they started off well, Bucks fans were upset with me. Like, you just don't like the Bucks. No, I don't have any issue with the Bucks. This team just isn't good, and I think it's completely, hey, Bobby Portis, Kyle Kuzma, Miles Turner, Kevin Porter Jr., AJ Green, Gary Harris, Jericho Sims, Gary Trent Jr., Ryan Rollins. If that's your roster, you're telling me that's your team, and your GM put that squad together and said, "Go get it, Giannis." Yeah, I just think that's an embarrassment. Like, I just don't think that's like, you didn't do your job well. Like, obviously they're trying to make it work around Damian Lillard's money. I get it, but they paid for Miles Turner. They're paying for Damian Lillard, the dead cap and all that. But I just don't think their team is good, man. And shout out to the Anthony Edwards and the rest of them getting this win today, because you got to obviously be able to keep pace in the Western Conference. They're 19-10, and everybody thought they were having a disappointing season this year. Now, Anthony didn't play well, but I think Rudy Gobert, had some impactful minutes today. Dante DiVincenzo continues to add really good value to that team as well. So the Wolves are good. That's my biggest thing for today.
Yeah, the Wolves are good, and hey, they're off to a better start than they have each of the past 2 years when they went to the Western Conference Finals. They've been a much better early season team this year than they were last year. But moving on, the San Antonio Spurs get a 124-113 win over the Washington Wizards. Victor Wembanyama still coming off the bench as he continues to work his way back from that calf injury. He played 22 minutes, had 14 points, 12 rebounds in those 22 minutes, but De'Aaron Fox led the way for the Spurs. He had 27 points, 7 boards, 6 assists on 10 of 19 shooting, and was 5 of 7 from deep.
Yeah, man. San Antonio's good, and I thought they would be good coming into the year, but y'all, 21-7 is a ridiculous record. Like, that's crazy.
I did not think that they would be able to survive the Wemby absence the way that they did. Not to say like I thought Wemby was going to get hurt. That's not the case. But when he went out, I thought, this might be like the thing that submarines the Spurs. And they were able to, I think they went 8-3 while he was out. Like, it was a really, really impressive run. Obviously, they make it to the NBA Cup final where they lose to the Knicks. But this has been, I think, a very, very impressive Spurs team so far. And I think that as Wemby gets really back into the fold, things will look good. Dylan Harper did have an off night for them, though. 1 point, 0 of 8 shooting in 18 minutes a night, certainly for the rookie to forget there.
Yeah, but the thing that is really important for this team is the fact they got Luke Cornett. They have an actual center without Wemby. 20 points and 12 rebounds. So as much as you know about basketball and that you know about your own team, if you have a center that can rebound, that can defend, and that can run, you can win a lot of games when you have a lot of guards with a center like that. And so Luke Cornett is already proving his value that without Wemby, he gives them an identity in the middle of the paint, and that he works really well with De'Aaron Fox as well. So just all the way around. Now, they played the Wizards, obviously, but still, like, the fact that they're this good and their record's this good, Danny, there are 4 teams in the Western Conference on pace to win 60-plus games this year. 4. 5, maybe 5.
How many actually do it?
I think the OKC will. I think Denver will. I think the Rockets can. I think they're going to get close to it. I think the Spurs will probably get around 50-something, but 60 might be too many. The Lakers are technically in range. I don't think they're going to get there. The Wolves are going to be funny, too, because the Wolves, they had 57 games 2 years ago. I mean, who's to say they can't get to 55? So is there a world where there are 4 teams with 55 or more wins in the Western Conference?
I think 55 is possible. I don't think 60 is. I don't think that you are winning 60 games and having to and be in the 4 seed. I just don't think that's happening. Like, that would be the greatest conference in NBA history, or at least the most top heavy one. I don't see that being the case. And then the final game that we've got to get to on Sunday, the Brooklyn Nets get a 96-81 win over the Toronto Raptors. Michael Porter Jr. led the way for the Nets. He had 24 points on 9 of 18 shooting, hit 4 threes. As for the Toronto Raptors, Brandon Ingram had 19 points in the loss. Scotty Barnes had a rough day. He had 6 points on 3 of 10 shooting. Just, I think, a game to forget. Jakob Poeltl only played 7 minutes in this one, too. He's been dealing with an injury and had to leave as well. So just not a good day if you're Toronto.
Yeah, some of that early season juice is worn off. for the Raptors, man. So hopefully they're able to reclaim it and get it back. And I think they have a chance to, do something in this conference. They're currently 17-13, which is really good. Do they finish at the top 6 seed right now? 'Cause right now they're just ahead of the Cleveland Cavaliers.
I need to see who else. I forget who else is in the top 5. My guess is no.
Magic, Sixers, Celtics, Knicks.
I think the 2 teams that I worry about are Philly and Toronto. I think Atlanta is going to be better. I do think the Cavs are going to be better. I think that those 2 teams will find a way into the top 6, and my bet would be that Philly and Toronto, just because Philly, like, you can't count on those guys to be healthy ever. For as good as Tyrese Maxey has been, for as good as VJ Edgecombe has been as a rookie, like, you just can't count on Paul George. You can't count on Joel Embiid, and I just think that's a really tough way to operate. And I've not really been a believer in Toronto. I think Scotty Barnes is really good, but if he's your best player, I just don't know that you're necessarily a playoff team right now. So I would venture to guess that the 7-8 game might be between Toronto and Philly.
Okay, I like that.
Yeah, but time will tell. We have a long way before we get there, and we have a lot of Sundays left right here at Locked On NBA Game Night with you. And of course, we've got you covered every single day, talking about every single day, every single game. So that's going to do it for us right here. But as a reminder, make sure when you're done with us, go check out Locked On Nuggets for your second listen, or Locked On Cavs for your second listen, and the Locked On Everydayer Club link in the show description. You can get ad-free episodes and access to a subscriber exclusive Discord channel. That is the best way to consume all of the Locked On content. So we're going to get out of here, and thank you for hanging out with us. Please, as we leave, make sure you're subscribed and hit that thumbs up button on YouTube, and we will talk to you a little bit later right here on Locked On NBA.